All right, we are recording. There is a new type of attack that I have added. I should say a new type of sub-attack. Applejack here is one of two ponies that has it. Rainbow Dash is the other. And it is called the Groundwave. This is something that I had all the way back in the original fanfic that inspired Weather Factory Meltdown, which is the Devil's Stallion. And the idea is that this is a wave that travels around along the ground. It only operates with tile blocks. It will not operate with what I call rogue blocks. These are moving blocks, conveyors, blocks that simply aren't part of the tile map. If we preview the whole attack, this is what it looks like. I mean, obviously we don't see it clinging to surfaces. It can go along the ground, cling to walls, and go up them. It can cling to the ceiling. It can wrap around. We're gonna have to go into the game in order to actually see it. But let me show you some of the things that are inside this. I mean, there's a few more obvious things. There's the hitbox. I mean, the taller this hitbox is, like if I make it 60, look at the size of that. That is just redonkulously tall. And there's two different ways that it can end. Like the back of it can be tapering off into nothing, or it can fade out. The alpha, it stays tall, but it sort of fades to white or whatever the background is. So there's two different ways that this can happen. And these drop-down boxes here, these tell it what to do when various things happen. If we meet a solid ledge from the floor, if this thing is going along on its merry way and it hits a cliff, you can tell it to cling to the surface. You can tell it to simply stop. You can tell it to ricochet, bounce away from that ledge, or you can tell it to tumble right off that edge. And you can have different behaviors for hitting a ledge for, for pass-through floors and for solid floors. For Applejack, if we're on a pass-through floor and it hits a ledge, then we just stop. There's if it meets a ledge while it's going along the ceiling, you can tell it to continue to cling along that ledge and go down. If it hits a wall from the floor, you can tell it to ricochet, stop, or cling to the wall and basically start climbing the wall. If you hit a wall while tumbling, tumbling is when it's sort of airborne and dropping down like it is here. You can tell it to cling to the wall, you can tell it to ricochet off the wall, or you can even tell it to stop immediately there. If you hit a wall while it's going along the ceiling, it can ricochet backwards, it can basically stop, or it can cling to the wall. You have similar things here. Probably one of the first ones that you're going to want to change is hit floor from tumble. It should cling instead of stop. Probably every character that you deal with, it's going to do a little bit of tumbling before it hits the floor. I think some part of me says I should have changed this automatically, but really I want the user to think about these things. What are the different behaviors that this ground wave is going to have if it hits the floor or a ceiling or a wall or what have you? You can also control the damage. You can control what element it is. You can control the X and Y offset for the spawn point. And you can control the color. This is colorized based on what parameters you give it. If you want to make it red, you can go ahead and make it red. Let's see. Let's try flame and no. Let's do pink, maroon, and brown. That's kind of ugly. Let's try this. That's not so ugly. But yeah, I'm going to cancel this. It's already the color that I want it to be. And this is a sub-attack. Yeah, keep that in mind. You can have this as part of another attack. You can have it as part of a melee attack, like a character slashes their sword down. It hits the ground, and a big old wave flies from out of that. That's an option too. And of course, you'd have to go into frame-by-frame details in order to change which frame this launches out at. Since I'm using the rear stomp cast, where the pony sort of goes up and then slams their hooves down, I had to use frame-by-frame details. I think it's at frame 8. Yes, at frame 8, that is the exact point where the ground wave comes out. And this, yeah, we get some ugly flashes now and then. This is the crosshairs that we use. Sort of an upside-down Y, and the intersection where it meets, that is the point that the ground wave will come out of. So, yeah, that's the way you set up a ground wave. It's pretty much the same for playable characters as it is for custom NPCs. I haven't really created that many ground waves for custom NPCs yet. Probably I'll end up adding some enemies at some point that sort of slam down on the ground and send ground waves out. But let me show you what it looks like when playable characters use ground waves. Alright, we are recording again. Here's Twilight, and she is flapping around with her nice waterproof wing-protecting raincoat. Same thing for Fluttershy and for Rainbow Dash. Of course, you try flying with Rarity, for example. She's actually pretty well camouflaged with that, with the particular raincoat she's got now. So let me just fix this. Now she's wearing her trench coat from Rarity Investigates, much more visible. Anyways, there are two different characters that have ground waves at this point. There's Applejack here. She can pound the ground. She has to be standing on the ground in order to do so. And there the wave just hits the ground. If you move before she's done, then that interrupts her cast. Fortunately, I modified that so that it doesn't trigger the cooldown. And if I time this right, boom! And yeah, it deals earth damage, so Zappo Topaz is much more vulnerable to that. The same way it would be if I hit it with Rarity's diamond-shaped attack. That deals earth damage. Yeah, Rainbow Dash deals electric damage, which is very powerful indeed. Now, one of the differences between Rainbow Dash's attack and Applejack's is that Rainbow Dash can use hers in flight. Another difference is that hers is much more rapid fire. Rainbow Dash's will tumble off of the edge of these pass-through platforms. Applejack's, by contrast, it gets to the edge and it will just disappear. Want to be careful there. But there is another difference. Rainbow Dash's attack, it will, if it hits a wall, it will bounce back. I mean, look at that. Applejack's, if her attack hits a wall, it just climbs the wall. Crawls along the ceiling. Yeah, you try that on a pass-through platform and won't work. So that is the way that ground waves play out. I think it's a really useful concept. And probably the thing that I'm going to work on next for Weather Factory Meltdown is actually debuffs for, let's see, NPCs, maybe also debuffs for playable characters. You know, stuff like being frozen, silence, the inability to use regular or custom attacks, that kind of thing. Actually, for NPCs, every attack is a custom attack. So maybe I'd have to set it up so that there are specific attacks it can't use, like fire attacks won't work, or ice attacks won't work, or melee attacks won't work, or the damaging hitbox simply isn't going to operate, things like that. We will see how things go from here, but hopefully debuffs on enemy playable characters is going to be next.